Thank you so much for watching this online video tutorial. Like, comment, and share, as well as subscribe to our channel at Good Better Best Online Videos for more video content.
Good day everybody, and thank you for joining us. Today we are going to be discussing determining derivatives using first principles. Now you all know how to determine the equation or how to determine the gradient of a straight line. We use the formula m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But how do we determine the gradient of a curve? How do we determine the gradient of a curve? We use the formula that you see in front of you. Fx is equal to f of x plus h minus f of x over h, with the limit as h tends to 0. That's how we determine the gradient of a curve. So I'd like to look at the first example. We have f of x is equal to x squared. And normally what happens in a case like this is wherever we see x, we need to replace it with x plus h. So this means that we are going to take the x that you see here and you are going to replace it with x plus h. So it will be x plus h squared. But have a look at this. This is your original. And what does that say? We need to subtract the original. And that's why we have minus x squared. So what we do is we replace x plus h. We replace x with x plus h. And then, of course, we keep the square. And now what we need to do is simplify. Our limit as h tends to 0 means that h becomes so small that we take the value as 0 eventually at the end. We aren't going to do it now, but at the end of the sum we will. Now what we need to do is expand and multiply, and we have x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus x squared over h. The x squareds will cancel, and we are going to be left with 2xh plus h squared over h. And what we're going to do now is take out our common factor of h, and we are left with 2xh plus h. The h's will cancel, and you are left with 2x plus h. Now, this is where we apply our limit. We apply our limit as h tends to 0. H becomes so small that it's negligible, and we write it as 0, and our answer is 2x. Let's look at our second example. We have f of x is equal to minus 3x squared. What do we need to do? We need to replace our x squared with x plus h. What does that give us? It gives us minus 3 times x plus h squared. Have a look at that. It says subtract the original. What is the original? The original is minus 3x squared. And so that's what we are going to subtract. And that's what you find there. And now we're going to multiply out again. So x squared plus 2xh plus h squared is that bracket expanded. And now we're going to multiply in. It's negative 3. You multiply everything outside the bracket with everything inside the bracket. That gives me negative 3x squared minus 6xh minus 3h squared plus 3x squared over h. And what we have the minus 3x squared that will cancel the plus 3x squared, and we are left with minus 6xh minus 3h squared over h. What do? We take out our common factor, and our common factor is h. Normally, we would take out the negative, but in this case, we aren't going to take out the negative, we just take out the h, so that the two h's will cancel, and we are left with minus 6x minus 3h. Again, we apply our limit as h tends to 0, so that's going to be the same thing as minus 6x minus 3 times 0, and our answer will be negative 6x. Let's look at our third example. We have f of x is equal to 2x squared minus x plus 1. I'm sure by now you can see that our examples are becoming slightly more complicated. So let's have a look at what we need to do. Our original is f of x. That's what we are going to subtract over here. And what do we do here? Where we see x, we replace x plus h. Where we see x, we replace x plus h. So it's going to be 2x plus h squared minus x plus h plus 1 minus our original. And so we're going to simplify by multiplying out. That gives me 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus x minus h plus 1. And then, of course, we need to multiply that negative in to the bracket, and we are left with minus 2x squared plus x minus 1 over h. And don't forget, our limit is h tends to 0. Now we simplify. We're obviously going to be cancelling what we can. Let's do that quickly. 2x squared will cancel negative 2x squared. Negative x will cancel positive x. Positive 1 will cancel negative 1. And what are we left with? We are left with 4xh plus 2h squared minus h. Again, we take out our common factor. Our common factor is h, and we are left with 4x plus 2h minus 1. h's will cancel, and we apply our limit as h tends to 0. So that gives me 2 times 0, which is 0, minus 1, and that gives me 4x minus 1. Now let's go to my favorite kind of first principle sum, fractions. I'm sure you love fractions just as much as I do. What do we do here? Because we have a fraction, so wherever we see x, we need to replace it with x plus h. So it's, instead of it being 3 over x, it's going to be 3 over x plus h minus the original, which is 3 over x, over h. So now you can see we have a fraction divided by a fraction. What we need to do is find the LCM. What are we going to find the LCM of? We're going to find the LCM of x plus h and x. And you should see that the LCM is x times x plus h. So we need to convert 3 over x plus h into a denominator of x plus h. So that will give me 3x minus 3 times x plus h. And everything still remains over our denominator of h. And what does that give us? Once we multiply out, we have 3x minus 3h over x times x plus h over h. And we cancel what we can. 3x minus 3x simplifies, and we have minus 3h over x times x plus h divided by h. Now you guys know that when we divide one fraction by another, we can multiply by the inverse. So we have minus 3 divided by x times x plus h divided by h over 1. It's invisible. We don't normally write it like that, but well, in this case, it would help for us to see what we need to do. So we have minus 3h times x plus h times 1. So we multiply, there's the multiply, and it's times 1 over h. We tip the fraction over. And so what happens is the h will cancel the h, and we are left with minus 3 x times x plus h. So we multiply, well, before we multiply out, we are going to say, let's apply our limit as h tends to 0, and that's going to be minus 3 over x squared as your final answer. I hope that video has helped you. Please share with your friends, and if you are in need of tuition, we do offer online tuition as well. You are welcome to contact me on 082 781 7703. Your best bet would be to WhatsApp me, and I will reply with the costs and how we go about our tutoring. Keep well, and I'll see you next time.